Sea salt. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Cockitude. And
Hello.
Cecil, you want to say hello?
Hi,
Cecil,
Cecil.
say hello.
Not sure, but he
Cecil with
looks
rabbit.
definitely. Oh, do the rabbit with Cecil.
Cecil
Oh
with
my,
rabbit ears.
that would make an awesome picture for the calendar.
That's cute.
Cecil says, "Don't you dare!"
Mm,
You look good with rabbit ears, kid.
bless you.
He's
Bless you
giving you
again.
the side eye.
Yeah, this room still doesn't get as much humidity as the rest of the house. I've got two big humidifiers, commercial ones running, and then one small one. And but I had to open the windows this morning to let fresh air in. So when I do that, it takes 35 to 40% humidity and drops it down to 12 in no time flat. So I think it's back. It should be built up by now, though. Looks like we have rivers out in the living room and one in Romeo's area too. And they're basically just tons of water floating up. Every time you air the place out, it costs you about 5 gallons of water. So,
Wow.
or you guys can open your windows and you can get all the humidity you want. Right, Cecil? Okay, let me switch the camera. I got it. The question is, the screen look normal? I mean, I'm on the screen where I change cameras. Does it look normal from your end? Does it, with the background and everything?
It seems to.
Well,
Okay, good. Then I can leave it this way and switch cameras. So we're going to be talking about trust, which the first thing you have to do is to learn to trust yourself. So I'll start with a story just from yesterday. I thought, well, I'm going to try and see if I can get some little boy down here into his cage without having to cover him up with a towel. You don't have to use a big towel. You can use a hand towel. You just have to cover his eyes, right? It just doesn't want to go back into a cage. And that started because he didn't like the other cage he had. So I figured out what the heck. I'll put a toy in front of him that he's chewing on. I got, one of his foot toys that I make, which is with a long bar. People usually, in one of those bars, they're about, I don't know, about the length of your foot. And I put wood on it and other stuff, and then he plays with it down on the bottom of the cage. So I thought, I'll just put this in front of him and see what happens. Now, of course, I'm prepared. I've got the bandages and stuff ready just in case. I got to trust myself to be able to handle it if he bites me. So I get him just about in his cage, and then I have to get him off my hand and then go get the bandages, right? But because I knew that I was prepared for it and I trusted that I had everything set up, so if it didn't work, I could quickly finish, stop the bleeding. It wasn't that bad anyway, but that's it. It's trusting yourself in a situation, knowing what the variables are, and that if you're going to try something that might be a little hard to do, like getting KK back into his cage without a towel. And he doesn't mind the towel. I mean, you throw a little hand towel over him, he goes right into his cage. I call it the KK taco, but
Really? Yesterday it was the KK burrito.
I usually say taco, but I
Okay,
can say
then it's a
I
taco.
once in a while I say burrito too. It's Mexican food. It's just
Well, maybe tomorrow it'll be the KK quesadilla.
I hope not. I'd have to flatten him out to make him a quesadilla. But yeah, it didn't work. But it was worth a try. So eventually, I'll get him to go back into his cage without that. But it's not like it's a big deal because you just take a hand towel, throw it over his head, and then put him in his cage, and he's fine with it. We have to play around in the morning though when I go to give him his medication because he knows I'm going to do that. So usually he'll when he sees I start giving the medicine, he goes and hides under his paper. He makes a little tent area. It's kind of
Oh,
his looks like a teepee, you know. He goes back and stays behind there, and then you can see his eye peering out. Like, are you still giving medication?
that's cute.
It is
Birds
cute.
are so
I
funny.
so I have a little piece of PVC that I've cut, and it's on the cart that got donated to us. It's on the cart, and so when I can't get him right away with his medicine, I stick it in there, and then I just keep waiting because eventually he's going to want me to give him another toy or whatever. He'll start rah, rah, yelling, and I come over, and then I can get him out. Because as soon as you pet him, he puts his foot out to get up on you. So, but he's the one I have to do the most creative thinking about making sure he gets his medicine twice a day. Inside of his cage, good luck. He's really good at spitting it out. It's not going to happen. You have to take him out. You have to sit him down on the cart and pet him, and then you can put his head back and you can put the medicine in. Try to put his head back inside the cage. You get the cage territoriality, and then it's go off to the medical room and bring out the bandages and. But if you're not quick, he's quicker than most people. So, but once he's out, he lets me do it. And of course, he tries to stall as long as he possibly can to go back to the cage. And he likes his cage. The other one, he was trying to rip it apart. He's not even tried with this cage. He gets down there and plays, or he will get upset if he doesn't, if he's bored with the toys he's got, which usually that, since you choose them up the same day, I don't know how he gets bored, but he will. Then he'll just get up on the cage and yell. On the other cage, he used to get up there and try to break the bars. Just let me out of this place. What are you doing? Uh-huh. I know you want to bite my shoes. Please don't.
Well, we should say hello to some of our chatters. So we've got Rosebud here, we've got Calvin here, we've got Jam and Jamie, and Falcon Sue. So hello to all of you guys. Nice to see you.
Also, big hello from me.
Hello, everybody.
Hope
And
everybody had a nice weekend.
I remember those. I don't know what a weekend is anymore. Well,
Somebody's in timeout.
it used to be that weekends, I just thought of them as these are the days you can't get to the vet. But it's just the opposite here because they go from Saturday to Tuesday. And after that, the home visitations are on Wednesday, and everything else is by emergency appointment. So weekends are actually the busy time. Oh, I have some. This is some preliminary good news, but we have to take into account that there might be a little bit of what's a common phrase for it rather than logical phrase. When you want to see something, so you see it. I had Cause up while I was making toys this morning. She was sitting up on a chair where she usually just sits. Will you leave my foot alone, please? Cecil, quit chasing my foot. Stop it. He doesn't think I'm serious. Look at that look. Are you talking to me? But I noticed she was looking right at me. She's never done that before, so maybe she's starting to see, her vision's starting to clear. It's supposed to take longer than this, though, so. But her eyes actually, I could see the iris focusing, and she was looking right at me, that's never happened before when she was up on that chair, so. We'll see. It looks like maybe she's getting her vision back.
That would be awesome.
It would be, but we tend to see what we want to see. Will you stop it? Come here. Come here. No, I'm not playing that game with you. Come here. We're not going to sit there and play that game. No, we're not. So you can touch my arm and say, pet me. How's that? How's that? You do that? Hmm? You want to touch my arm and say, pet me? Huh? Big silly bird.
So Jocelyn Gray came in. So welcome, Jocelyn. And of
Hello,
course,
Tom.
welcome, Cinnamon.
Cinnamon. Well, Cinnamon would probably be horrified to hear that when I make their birdie biscuits, I put cinnamon in them.
Sugary.
Yeah, there's a little sugar in there too. So cinnamon and
Sugar and
sugar.
cinnamon. I wonder if they would get along.
Oh, sugar gets along with most other birds. She's territorial about her perch, but she gets along with most. The larger birds usually they treat the smaller birds with a little deference.
Yeah, and well, cockatiels, they are a little calmer than when you compare them to budgies.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah, compared to a budgie. Budgies are much more active, I think.
Budgies, they go completely nuts. Doesn't matter if you only have 2 or a complete super flock with 100 budgies or so. They tear the neighborhood up and let them know that they are budgies.
We have Jasmine. She has decided to put herself in prison. She likes resting in the cages sometimes. Lucy's that's not her normal spot. She's been moving around a lot. She's back there in the corner. And Snowball, who's half asleep on the perch, and behind Snowball is Pippa. Pippa. KK next to me. See, that's the remnants of KK yesterday. Somebody needs to make bird bandages, the ones that have that little spot between the two puncture wounds. Right, Cecil? So we're going to talk about trust, building trust. And a lot of what you see, or these birds get along with me and they listen to me, is because they actually trust me. Foolish birds, trusting me. Right, Cecil? Uh-oh. There we go. Foolish birds. So you're the human, so you have to set the tone, right? You have to set the tone for the environment. And that means you have to work with honesty, you have to work with compassion, um, and prepare for the fact that generally there are no quick fixes, although it does happen once in a while. Don't expect it. Cinnamon is eating Nutriberries, and Bob will steal those from her. He gets a limited number of those, and he's the only one who gets them. But
As we found out, he's also the chunkiest of the whole flock.
yeah, he weighs more than Sugar.
He needs his vitamins. So he can do his Triton work.
I had visitors here and bringing us something, and he was just having a fit until I got him out. And then he's like, "Okay, I'm fine now. I've just got to be here and meet these people. This is my job. I meet everybody."
Such a sweet boy.
But this is the thing. To develop trust with the bird, you have to trust that you can handle situations. So if you have a situation you don't feel you can handle, it's time to learn how to handle it. So that's where you research it and figure out, which is what I did because I knew I was out of my depth when I had Chloe. I was like, oh boy, I don't know what I'm doing. So um, when I just had her, I was taking Dr. Friedman's course and reading every book I could get my hands on. That's how I found the manual of parrot behavior, which has really helped a lot. Um, then I still didn't feel up to par. So I took Dr. Zelig's course, but the main thing is you have to, whenever you're dealing with a situation, you have to trust that you can handle it. So sometimes that means you have to do a little research. Um, I'll give you an example of why research is important. I had some people I knew who they had 4 parrots, and the parrots started to go blind. They could tell they were going blind and they couldn't figure out why. So they went back and they looked at what they'd done, and they had gotten UV lamps and put them in there so the birds would get their vitamin D from UV. The problem was the UV lamps they got were for reptiles, and you can't use those. It'll blind your birds. So they got rid of those things, and within a week or so, their vision came back. So do that for 6 months or a year, and it's not coming back. You're going to have blinded the birds permanently. So, but they trusted themselves to be able to figure out what the problem was, and they stuck to it until they did. So a lot of times when you're dealing with these guys, you have to work just that way. You're going to make mistakes. Just trust that you can fix most of them. I say most because there are some mistakes you can make that you may have to carry a wound with you for the rest of your life, but that can happen anywhere in your life. Just seems to be more likely with these guys, right, Cecil? Hmm. So parrots. We know parrots aren't domesticated, right? They're wild animals. So um, you have to earn their trust, and it's not given. A dog, you can, you can. You shouldn't, of course, but you could mistreat a dog, and it will still cower and treat you like you're God. That's the way a dog is, right? You can't really do that with a cat. Try treating a cat like that, and the cat will like, I'm not getting anywhere near you. So in some ways, they're more like a cat in that regard. But the reason being, they remember when they remember who did what to them, when, and how it felt. So um, you have to remember that they're not domesticated, and you have to earn their trust. And if you make a mistake, you may have to earn it back. Real trust is you don't have to be perfect to gain their trust. You just have to be consistent. Right, KK? And giving you a toy and trying to put it in your cage is not consistent, is it? You know the towel routine, but the toy didn't work. And again, that was a consistency thing. So I'm never done trying to get him back in his cage with a toy. It didn't work. And not saying it can't. I'd probably have to pair it with a towel for a while, but so it may take a while for you to build your trust in yourself to handle this situation, as it did me. You think I did this overnight? Well, I've got a bridge to sell you right here, or maybe some swampland where I live in the middle of the desert. Uh, it did take quite a while for me to trust myself dealing with these guys. Um, So eventually you have to be able to show up with knowing that you're going to have patience, that you're going to be graceful in every situation. Sometimes I don't look that graceful. At my age, it's hard to look graceful. And that you're going to be curious. You're going to be paying attention to what they're doing. You're going to be curious as to their behavior. Develop trust in yourself that way, that you can do those things. Self-doubt quite often sabotages trust too. Say, I've heard, I don't know how many times I've had people say, well, if I put my hand in the cage, she tries to bite me. I've heard that one so many times. Okay. What's stopping you from getting that bird out of the cage is a lack of self-trust, and you're sabotaging yourself. If you have to go take a class in first aid so you know how to deal with the wound once you get it, do it. So you'll not necessarily that you're going to have that problem anymore. It's not that you're like, okay, I'm just going to let the bird bite me. No, I mean, you just want to trust that if it does happen, you can deal with it and you're not going to freak out and run down the street naked screaming. It's just not going to happen. So, because parrots tend to mirror your emotional state, right? So, yeah, your insecurity becomes their anxiety, right? I watched it where people, I just recently had someone here, a really nice guy, but he's nervous about handling parrots, and just he did, but you could see that the slow motion of like, I don't know what this bird is going to do. That kind of thing the bird can pick up. It was Lucy. So Lucy's like, okay, I'm used to this. Because she's had a lot of people try to handle her over the years. She was at a veterinary office and they'd leave her out there so that people could pet her. Of course, they damaged her beak so she couldn't hurt the people, because they were more interested in not getting a lawsuit than they were in her health. But so just remember, when you're insecure and you're not sure about what you're doing, you're just passing that on to them. So, faith is something that's that's has to be an action. Okay. Faith is action. So if you're going to have faith in yourself, you have to do something with that faith in yourself. You can't say, I can handle this bird and stay in the kitchen and listen to them talk in the other room. It's not a blind belief though. It's something that you develop over time. It's a daily decision. And what happened yesterday may have uh, schooled you, may have taught you something, or it may have brought up your insecurity. You got to deal with it. So there's a quote I like on this. You are the mountain they will eventually land on. But first, you must believe you are solid ground. So every one of these birds, when it came to me, I had to develop trust. And usually the first part of that was trusting myself to deal with a totally new personality. Yeah, I didn't look at it, oh, it's another umbrella. No, because you don't know what you're running into. KK ran, I remember KK running across the floor, chasing other birds, You know what other bird that was, that big mander. But so anything that runs away from him, he's after
It's
it.
always poor old Mander.
Yeah. Well, Anders, he's like a bull in a china shop. They just he tends to break things, but not physical things, but break the peace in the environment, and then somebody notices. So you're going to make mistakes, but you got to be persistent, right? You can't be perfect, so you have to be persistent. My teacher, Jennifer Zelligs, in Animal Training 101, she showed us a lot of videos where like you need to catch where she's making a mistake. Um, then she pauses it when once you've gone beyond that, and she shows how she fixed it. So she didn't just tell you how to do it; she showed you how to fix it, which is important because I do a lot of fixing. A good example was Lorelei when I didn't realize there was a hawk at her window, and I put her back in the cage when she flew out. It took me 6 months to get her trust back. I'm better at it now. That was before I took Jennifer Zellig's class, but 6 months. I go to take her out of her cage, and she'd jump. She'd look at me like, "What are you going to do to me? What are you going to do anything to you?" That's why she likes to be called baby girl, because if I said Lorelei after that, that's what I said to her when I was trying to catch her that day, and she did not want to hear that name. So she likes me to say, so now I say Lorelei baby girl, and so she's okay with her name again, but it took a while. You just have to know that you can fix it, right? You're going to make mistakes, you're going to blow it. So repairing the situation is more powerful than perfection. And if you think you can be perfect, I I I got some. There's no lakes around here, but I can find you one, and we'll see if you can walk across the water. There's a lizard that can do that down in Australia, but it's more like it runs. But it does. It actually runs on the water. So that's the Jesus Christ lizard. That's what they call it. So if you
Cool.
think, yeah, if you think you're gonna be perfect, well, there's a Jesus Christ lizard I can show you. Um, but your bird's worth it, okay? Cecil, what are you doing? It's windy out there, and I think he's trying to tell the tree to stop moving or something. I don't know. The leaves on that tree are moving pretty. Can't see it with the film I have on the window, but I can see it. Um, you having fun over there, or is it your reflection you're playing with? You can see his reflection too. I don't know what he's doing. So they're worth your time, your attention, and your effort. So even when they're screaming or biting or avoiding you, that's not rejection. Okay, that's fear, trauma, or miscommunication. Are you having fun? Hello, not you, Cecil. Cecil, no, no. He's trying to get that film. He's trying to grab the edge of that film and take it off the window. That was hard to put on. I'm not good at that kind of thing. As if he could understand what I was saying. Ah, but he understands the tone of voice. So learn to celebrate the tiny wins you have. But hey, yo, when hi, sweetheart, when you get their attention and they pay attention to you, it's a glance, it's a head tilt, it's a moment of stillness with the bird that doesn't usually sit still for you. That moment of stillness on your arm, right? These are, hey, you, watch it over there. Um, these are those sacred moments, right? Hey, stop it. Okay, well, if you're gonna chew that, I guess that's better than having you go out to the window. I can fix that. I can sew better than I can peel that back on. Um, so note them, write them down if you have a tendency to forget. I do that. And let those little wins build your resolve to keep working, okay? So, one thing that helps to build your own trust in yourself and their trust in you is routine. Cecil. Face off. Now he's having fun. See, he's getting my attention. He's doing things. Yeah, I know you're looking at me while you're doing this. I know. No, Cecil. He just wants me to keep looking at him. You. Hey, stop it. I'll come over there. No. Cecil. What was that? No, don't eat that.
Is there something interesting outside?
Yeah, I think the light is the tree's moving, so there's a shifting of the light on the window. And then he's like playing with Dad. If I do this, I get his attention. If I do that, I get his attention. Hi, Cecil. What a good boy you are. What a good bird. What a good bird. Did you have fun teasing me? Did you? Did you? So all the habits that you have, feeding the way you feed them, they expect me to bring them their dry food, then they expect me to bring them their wet food. Cause expects to be out when I'm making the dry food. She expects to be out when I'm making the wet food and getting it, and then she expects to be on my shoulder as I deliver all of it. And then when I go to her cage, is one of the last cages I pass. I just put my arm out. She gets on my arm, goes right into her cage and starts eating. Break that routine, and she won't eat. So the routine helps them to trust you more. They expect you to do certain things for them. Try not to eat the shoe. I know it's, hey, yeah, why did he get white shoes? I don't know why he got white shoes. So they could look at them get dirty, and these are the kind you can't wash in the machine. So what do? You wipe them off, and they always look dirty. That's the way it works. So the other thing that's important too is if a bird tells you no, you have to learn their signals. But when a bird says no, I don't want to do this, don't force it. You force it at your own peril because if you break their trust, now, it might be something simple like you want them to get off the perch and they're saying no. They might have to go to the bathroom right then. And maybe that's what they're waiting for you to just back off so they can do that and then they'll come over. So give them a chance to to answer yes or no to things. And if it's something you really need, you can train it. And if you don't think training is important, well, I don't want to see your child when they have to be potty trained and you don't think it's necessary. Hi, this is my 8-year-old son, George. Uh, he has a tendency to go to the bathroom wherever he is, so just be aware of that. So training is important here too. But again, you have to build trust, and that's part of what training does. So you see them do something you like, it's across the room, use that bridge, good bird or whatever you use for a bridge, not a clicker. If you got any clicker, I don't know. There might be a garbage dump somewhere in the world where they're gathering clickers, like a huge mound of clickers. But um, whatever that bridge is, to let them know that they're doing something right, let them know that they're doing something right. So, and you reward when they're calm too. Sometimes people yell at a dog, don't do that. But then, if you notice, when Cecil came over here, I'm petting him. And I praised him for coming over. Well, that's how you get positive behavior. I shouted at him a little bit when he was over there. I got quiet when he wasn't doing something I didn't want. So that reinforcement really helps. So You reward when they're calm too. If you want a bird that's going to be calm, you reward that, right? Otherwise, if you don't reward being calm, you're going to you're going to make the situation untenable in the future, right? You're not going to be happy. Um, Try to be calm around them. You know, try not to give them, like anxious affection where you're like. If you notice when I pet Cecil, I pet him around the head, and I give him it's a gentle thing. It's not yanking him up to my chest and holding him real tight, and and all that. That when you start doing that, then you're gonna bring on an intensity in the bird you don't really want to see. Your intensity will transfer. You can try that out. Go to a bar and start shouting and see what happens. I'm not suggesting you do that, but you get the idea, right? You don't want to get them all fired up. Some people do that. There's one cockatoo I've seen on the web where this bird yells and screams at the people who it lives with, and they taunt it to make videos. I would not do that. But so this particular cockatoo yells and screams and acts all, and they're stimulating that behavior. I don't imagine they'll be on YouTube that much longer because eventually they will have trained the bird to be a real monster. So I don't know. You can't see what they do outside of that. They might be calm most of the time and they just make these little videos, but it's not the kind of thing you want to do. Maybe they've got a way of getting around it by not doing it that much. So just remember that, you want to treat them with loving kindness. A lot of people talk about love. Oh, love this, love that. I can fix it with love. No, you can fix things with loving kindness because you can be, when KK first got here, he didn't show much in the way of affection. He wasn't terribly affectionate when I first got him. He'd been through a lot. And not the least of which was flying freight in a freight compartment from Alaska and then getting picked up and dragged an hour and a half over the mountains to where we are. So, but you can see he's quite affectionate now. So I just treated him with loving kindness. The first thing I did was hand him an unsalted French fry when he came out of the carrying cage he'd been in for the trip. And then, that's the first thing I did when I got him out. But I spoke to him sweetly the whole way back here and put on some soft classical music. If it had been Peaches, I would have put on Rammstein. Putting on soft classical music to Peaches is you're going to get. If she could have done a raspberry like Murray used to do, she would have done it. But you can always, always do loving kindness. You can't. Love is something that's temporary. Oh, I love you. That goes away. But loving kindness is something you can just make a way of life. I treat everything with loving kindness. But when I drop something on the floor, I don't treat it with loving kindness. As long as it's not a bird, I will yell at it because I'm old and not that flexible, and I hate picking things up. I do have tools to pick things up off the floor, those grab all tools, but sometimes I'm too lazy to go grab it, or I'm in a hurry. So compassion is more powerful than control. So, you know, in the old days, we used to say, when you're like training a dog, you would say, "I gave the dog the command." Well, we know better than that now. Or we give another life. We give it a cue.
Now you're making fun of me
No, I'm not. I'm not making fun of you. Not at
using
all.
command.
Yeah, but then again, we're talking. Your native language is German, so um, it doesn't have the same feel. But over here, when you say command, it's like a drill instructor. You know, drop down and give me 50. That's what command sounds like, right? But Q is more like, hey, I got a treat for you. Just do this. So there's a feel to the word. I give a bird a cue. Well, he cues me. He reaches up and taps my arm. He used to give me a command though. He tried to bite at me if I didn't pet him. So I taught him to give me the cue and not the command. But no, I'm not making fun of you. When I took my classes, I wasn't aware of that, so I still thought that there were certain terms. But gives you a mindset that's wrong if you use those words, because what it does is it frames it like I'm in charge here, but you're really not. You're making a deal with the bird, right? The bird trusts you. You make a deal that if you do this, I make this cue, I show you this, either a hand signal or you hear a sound, and you do that, then you get this. So the thing that comes first is the cue, and then the behavior, and then the reward. Or in the case of KK, when I put him in the cage, it was, here's the, I got my reward. He let me know we're not doing that. So trust is the love that doesn't push. You don't want to push. I hope all that makes sense. I'm done. Off my soapbox now. So, which is what they used to do in the U.S. They used to stand on these big soapboxes with these politicians and lie to you about all the wonderful things they were going to do for you. Right, Cecil? Right, KK? What do you think, KK? Hmm? What do you think? You think you're going to nest, huh? Hmm. Gesundheit. Yeah, if you can't develop trust with your bird, you'll never sit in a room like this, because Cecil just tapped my arm. He cued me to pet him. So, but he trusts that I will pet him if he touches my arm. And if I don't, he will eventually go back to nipping at me. That's the way it'll work. Right, Cecil? Snowball had that problem on the bridge of his upper beak, and that seems to be almost gone now. He's been getting Silvadine for what, we're on day 8 now. It looks almost healed. I suspect Pippa, but it could have been something else. Now she's sitting right next to him. She's sitting close to him and looking at him, but not causing any trouble. Questions, comments? Can't throw tomatoes at me. They'd probably kill me now, tomatoes today, but
No, chat is actually pretty quiet. I'm not sure if Falconsu is still laughing about JC Lizard.
laughing about what?
The Jesus Christ lizard from Australia.
Yeah, you can look that up. You can see them on YouTube. That's what they call them.
Yeah, I believe you. It's just hilarious.
I can put a link on one of them up there. But I don't know when I studied those. That was way back in college, I think, when I learned about them. That would have been somewhere around the Cretaceous period, I think. Sugar. Can you give me a little more light sugar? What, you want me to pet you? Is that what you want? Or are you going to climb up on my arm? Oh, pet you. Okay. Snowball's waking up. Snowball is waking up. He doesn't know what to think about me taking him and putting a Silverdine on his beak every morning. And then Cause comes out and she gets weighed before I get their breakfast out. And then at night, before they get their last snack of the day, all of them, I weigh Cause again. She's been weighing she used to weigh right around 424 no matter what time of day. And I mean it was right almost at that number. This morning she weighed 427. Probably by tonight she'll weigh about 442. That's been about average. She was having some pretty big swings too. For a while there, she was going from, I would feed her at night, AT exact, and she'd go from about 440 down to about 410. That's a huge drop. Not anymore. She seems to be a lot happier about life. So
Well, that's always great when birds are happy about life. Oh no. Has Cecil still issues with your shoe?
I just tapped my foot just a little bit to let him know not to do that. And he's staring at me like, "Are you telling me no? Are you telling me no?" Yeah, I see you playing right at the edge, huh? Uh-huh. I don't care if you do that. You can do that if you want. Just don't bite the shoe because my foot's in there. Nut. He's enjoying playing right at the edges of his behavior limits is what he's enjoying. First the thing with the window and then going after my shoe and just playing around. She's testing his limits today. That's good. He's having fun doing it though. So just final thoughts. You are capable of doing this if you decide to do it. You can build trust. Um, if your bird is hurting, it is capable of healing. You just have to help. But hey, don't you play games with my shoe. No, 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 no. Nope. And you have to believe that you are worthy of trust. So if you don't think you can be trusted, it's hard to pass that on to a bird. So you could always put up a little card on the wall somewhere that you see every day. Right? That would be next to the refrigerator for me because I have a little area there where I put all my post-it notes and that kind of thing. A note that says, "Today I choose to be the calm, consistent force in my bird's life." So, right, Cecil? Just have to have two. It doesn't matter what. Not just the ball, but a little piece of plastic to go with it. Yawn. Jasmine is still asleep. Snowball has taken the high spot up there. Slip is wide awake and sneezing. Lucy's looking out the window. I should. You want some beak pats? Do you want some beak pats, little girl? Ouch. Cecil. Your nails aren't that sharp, but that's my ear, you silly bird. That's my ear. That's my ear. Sugar. Sugar the bird. That's my ear, Cecil.
Do we have a Shuk bird? She's a real dino, Shuk.
You know, she was all happy when I gave her a new toy today, too. She just about worn out the one she had from a couple of days ago, so she doesn't like me to take them right away, but
Can you take Sugar with you in the kitchen and put her on a perch and she would stay?
she won't be happy about it, but she'll do it. It's not one of the places she's used to going, so she'll sit if I make her do it. If I need to do something like give her some medicine or something special, then she'll do it. She's more likely to go into the actual stop it. He's whacking the side of my head. I can't think when you whack the side of my head. Can't do it. Cecil. The examination room, which anyone else would call that the master bathroom, but it's actually the examination room. So
And if you open the door now, how long would it take till Sugar walks out?
you never know when she's going to do that. I've never actually seen her get on the floor and take off. Or she waits until I'm not around. I leave the room, and then she runs out. She gets on the floor and runs out of here and jumps in her cage. But
Yeah, Sugar can't be seen moving.
I've
She
never
doesn't
seen
like
her
that.
jump out to do that. It's funny though, after you get done doing her nails, yeah, she refuses to go back in her cage. You have to put her up on the perch. So, and I usually do them. I usually do them before I take them out. So she's like,
I'm still laughing about Lorelai in the master bathroom when you wanted to make her nails and she flew on the floor, ran out the door and flew further.
I don't know what got into her that day, but she was obviously, it might have been the stethoscope, but 'cause I'm having to train that now so that I don't have the weird looks vet when the vet comes over to do all 12 birds. So we have a good vet now, so that's a good thing. Not someone who can do surgery, but she can do everything else, all the other stuff we need done. For surgery, we'd still have to travel a ridiculous 7-hour trip. But there aren't many.
So
many
Chairman Jamie just donated $14 to us. So thank you so much for that, Chairman.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And KK would say thank you, but he's kind of busy now. Aren't you, KK? Where's the head? There's the head. Now, if that were Cecil under the blanket, you wouldn't want to try to pet around the head, because he tends to try to bite anybody that tries to touch him when he's under a blanket. The KK doesn't do that. Actually, Cecil tries to bite him when he's. I can't let Cecil anywhere near KK when he's under a blanket. I have to uncover KK. So. But Cecil's beating me up right now, so. Well, thanks everybody for coming. Don't forget we do have merchandise. You can get there through our Linktree address, and coffee cups and Bob's boxers. Those are always popular, and all kinds of other fun stuff that Amy's put together.
I think we also have beach towels if somebody needs some nice furry towel at the beach. I think it's peach on the beach.
Beach on
or
the
at the beach. We had that discussion.
A peach on the beach is fine.
It's both right in its own means.
Yep. Yeah, well, there are some things that German does right that English doesn't. We say we have children playing in the street. That would mean there might be tunnels underneath the street that they were playing on, but in German it's more they play on the street. That makes
but
more
it's
sense.
not only between English and German. It's with every language, everything is fine until the prepositions start to show up.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Prepositions are murder.
Anything is possible, but with prepositions, you really have sometimes just to plain learn the cases in when you use that and when that.
Well, when I was growing up, people did, things happened by accident. Now people say on accident, and every time I hear it, I cringe. But I know that that's the way language works, right? It changes and evolves. But
sure,
on accident sounds wrong to me. But
so thanks everybody for coming. Have a good time, and we hope to see you on Wednesday again.
Yes, we do. And say bye, KK. You say bye.
Bye-bye.
Science knowledge only adds to the excitement, the mystery, and the awe of a flower.
Evidence is evidence. It's public. Everybody can look at the evidence and assess it, and eventually, if there's enough evidence, come to the same conclusion.
Of the Chloe Sanctuary for Parrots and Cockatoos, a nonprofit charity dedicated to the empowerment of captive parrots and public awareness.